I want to get your thoughts on this. So I think we went through the whole timeline from starting to think about buying a business all the way to selling. I want to shift courses a little bit.
Sure.
I think it's very rare to have someone your age to be able to go from, buying your first laundromat to building a 9-figure successful business, but also this whole idea of being able to take down the Goliath of private equity and these big corporate buyers. That's a tall ask, man. I mean, I'm curious because so many people struggle with the story of money and the limited beliefs that have been taught by media, their parents. I certainly have. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. And how have you overcome that? And do you still struggle with that? Like, do you still struggle with seeing, I don't know, a billionaire and be like, I don't know if I can get there. Like, how do you get over that?
Yeah. When I was younger, well, I guess I will say this, actually. I was talking to another guy today about how some people, what's the right way to do that? Like, some people have like an insatiable drive for food. They have literally a genetic predisposition to have a higher drive towards wanting food more often, which is in some way how we can understand obesity. So you and I might have a totally different relationship with food, whereas I might be thinking about food constantly, need to eat, have a high signal to noise ratio for food. Like, I'm thinking about it constantly. You might actually say, that's not like a high desire state for me. So I actually don't think about food very much. And so for me, I think I've always been the type of person to think, I'm just going to earn more. I'm just going to make more. Money is cool. Let's make more of it. I have never been great on the downside on budgeting and saving. So I've always kind of said, I want that thing. I'm going to figure out how to earn more to make it. And so even though I didn't grow up with money, I had sort of like this irrational belief that I could make more money and that give me an opportunity to push and I'll figure it out. And I don't know if that came from athletics or my family or whatever, but that is, and I like working. So I'm like, let me work the problem and I'll figure it out. What I found is, not very many people are like that. So I think for a lot of us, we have a negative relationship with money, and we have self-worth issues tied to money. And if I could break one thing, it's that no matter what your net worth is, it has nothing to do with your value as a human. And that simultaneously, I've never met a billionaire who didn't drive massive value. I've never met a human that I thought, that idiot will never make $1. Like, I've met people that I thought they don't want to make dollars, so they won't. But I really haven't met somebody, pending like major, psychological issues, who I think is so incapable that they won't ever be able to drive some amount of monetary wealth to them. I think that's rare. I think we're actually all a little bit more capable than we think we are. And so the biggest problem is that we don't use the muscle very much. I think a lot of times what we do with money is we say, hey, I want to go learn how to play basketball. So why don't I watch a lot of stuff on basketball, and I'll think a lot about basketball, and I'll read books on basketball, and then I'll probably be good. Yeah. And it's like, instead of doing all that, do all of that, but then go practice. Get in the game. And I think that's why we structure our community the way we do, is I want people to learn through case study. I want people to be together in a room, and I want people to beat up deals live, because that's you practicing. You are practicing the art of playing the game of money. And so in investing, I kind of looked at what we did in private equity, and I was like, okay, you need 3 things in private equity to be really successful and to make money. You need an investment committee that gets together at least once a week, and you take deals, and you have a group of people that say, that's bad, that's bad, that's good, that's good. What should we do next? Where are we going? Write down a list of things. You got a wet blanket in there that goes, I know that you love this deal. I'm going to play polar opposite, and you're going to try to talk me into the deal one way or the other. I'm going to talk you out of it. You need an investment committee. We don't have that in society typically. The second thing you need a somebody to help you, and as an advisor, usually what's called a buy-side advisor. So somebody who can say, okay, here's the next step in buying the business or acquisition. Here's when you bring in your attorney. Here's when you bring in your accountant. Here's where we do the LOI stage. You have somebody that kind of holds your hand, sort of like a realtor would for real estate.
Is this also like an investment banker? just for smaller businesses.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. It's just investment banking would be bigger.
Right.
Buy-side advisor, almost the same thing. Investment bankers wouldn't like us saying that, but yeah, for all intents and purposes. And then the third thing that you need is you need some sort of deal team. So you need a group of people that typically an accountant, an attorney, and a subject matter expert. Where, if you're going to buy a graphic design business, you have somebody who's run one before. And so I realized, okay, it's not, one, we got to get over the fear that we're not good enough with money. But then two, we just got to get reps in. And so the way we structured and designed what we created is that each week we get together with our investment committee, beat up deals. We have office hours for your buy-side advisors for you to go to them and ask them a bunch of questions. And then simultaneously, we have a deal team, which is a cohort of people that come together with you and they work through the deal with you. And then, a vendor database where you can go and get your individual accountants and attorneys if you want it. So, we kind of structured this like, how could we teach people basketball? Like, where's basketball camp? Not just... how can we create a channel about basketball? And I think we need more of that in life. And there's plenty of books and there's plenty of YouTube videos on this stuff. But I want people to get their hands dirty. That's where I think you start to make money. It's like, the best business school is business. Don't go to MBA to learn business. Take the $100K that you're going to put in your MBA and try to start something with it.
Yeah.
And watch how much more you learn.
You mentioned something interesting, which is you said the first step is to get over your fear, and then the second step is to actually start doing it. But it's funny because I feel starting to do it would actually help you get over the fear. It's like the chicken and egg thing.
You're right. I think you're right. I always struggle with you're right. I think, how do you become able to win a championship game and actually shoot the shot in a moment of stress and anxiety when it matters more than anything?
Right.
You shoot the shot 10,000 times before, where like muscle memory is just like, bing, that knows how to do it. So I think you're right. It is practicing now. Because the great part is there's really two things in learning. You have the education and the implementation.
Yeah.
The education, you're never going to lose money learning, right? You only lose money when you implement, when you actually do the thing. And so I'm always kind of pushing people to learn the skills needed to make money as much as humanly possible, and then be really thoughtful before you take action, because the implementation is where we have risk. It's also where all the reward is. You could educate, but if you never implement, you're never going to make money. And so it's how can we move these people through these two cycles to actually win? And I kind of obsess on this. My mom was a teacher for 30 years, special education.
Wow.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for her getting me to obsess on reading. I've always loved reading and learning. It just it's my most favorite thing to do. And so her doing that, she never thought that would lead maybe to money. I think she thought that might lead to happiness or being a well-rounded human. But I've found it leads to both, for me at least.
Yeah, no, for sure.